Maya Rodriguez clutched her swollen belly as she stepped into the dusty barn, the morning sun casting long shadows across the hay-strewn floor. At 7 months pregnant, every movement required careful calculation, but desperation had brought her here to Willow Creek Stables. The job posting had been simple: stable cleaner needed, cash payment, no questions asked. For someone with no fixed address and a rapidly dwindling bank account, it seemed like providence. The owner, Bradley Thompson, emerged from the office with a clipboard and a skeptical expression. He was a man in his 50s with calloused hands and weathered skin that spoke of years working outdoors. His eyes lingered on Maya's pregnant form with obvious concern. "You sure you can handle this kind of work?" Bradley asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. "It's hard labor and you're pretty far along." Maya straightened her shoulders, drawing on the confidence that had once commanded boardrooms. "I need this job, Mr. Thompson. I won't let you down." Bradley studied her for a long moment. There was something about the way she carried herself, despite her obvious circumstances, that intrigued him. Her clothes were worn but clean, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her eyes held a determination that reminded him of his own daughter. "The pay is $40 a day," he said finally. "You'll muck out 12 stalls, refill water troughs, and help with feeding. Work starts at sunrise, ends around noon. You eat lunch with the family if you want." Maya nodded quickly, relief flooding through her. "Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity." As Bradley showed her around the facility, Maya couldn't help but notice the quality of the horses. These weren't ordinary farm animals. They were thoroughbreds, each one worth more than she'd made in a year at her previous job. The stable itself was immaculate, with state-of-the-art equipment and a level of care that spoke to serious money. "Been running this place for 20 years, Bradley explained as they walked. "My wife Emma and we've built it up from nothing. These horses, they're like family to us." Maya watched him pat a beautiful chestnut mare, nodding the genuine affection in his touch. "They're gorgeous animals. You must be very proud." "We are. Each one has a story just like people do." He glanced at her sideways. "Speaking of which, you got somewhere to stay. You look like you've been sleeping rough." The question caught Maya off guard. She'd been careful to wash up at gas stations and present herself as professionally as possible, but apparently, her situation was more obvious than she'd hoped. "I'm between places right now," she said carefully, "but I'm managing fine." Bradley's expression softened slightly. "There's a small apartment above the feed store. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and warm. You can use it while you're working here, no extra charge." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." "Just do good work, that's thanks enough." As Maya began her first day of mucking stalls, she reflected on how far she'd fallen. 6 months ago, she'd been the vice president of marketing at a Fortune 500 company, living in a downtown penthouse with her fiancé Marcus. Now she was shoveling horse manure for survival money, her designer clothes replaced by thrift store finds, her manicured nails broken and dirty. The work was backbreaking, especially in her condition. Each shovelful of soiled hay sent aches through her lower back, and she had to stop frequently to catch her breath. But there was something oddly therapeutic about the routine, the simple satisfaction of transforming a dirty stall into a clean one. During her lunch break, Emma Thompson appeared with a sandwich and a glass of milk. She was a petite woman with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. "Bradley tells me you're expecting," Emma said, settling beside Maya on a hay bale. "When are you due?" 8 weeks, Maya replied, accepting the food gratefully. "It's a girl." Emma smiled. "Girls are special. We have 3 daughters ourselves, all grown now. Do you have family nearby?" Maya shook her head, not trusting herself to speak. The truth was too complicated, too painful to share with these kind strangers. "Well, you've got us now," Emma said simply. "We take care of our own here at Willow Creek." Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into the work with determination that impressed even Bradley. She arrived early, stayed late, and never complained despite the obvious physical toll. The horses seemed to sense her gentle nature, often nuzzling her hands or whinnying softly when she approached. The Thompsons' 3 daughters, Jessica, Amanda, and Rachel, visited regularly with their own children. Maya watched wistfully as the family gathered around the dinner table, their easy laughter and casual affection a stark contrast to her own isolated existence. "You know," Emma mentioned one evening as Maya prepared to return to her small apartment, "Jessica's old maternity clothes are just sitting in the attic. She's about your size. Would you like me to bring some down?" Maya's first instinct was to refuse. She'd been refusing charity for months, clinging to the last shreds of her pride. But practicality won out. Her current clothes were becoming uncomfortably tight, and she had no money for new ones. "That would be very kind," she said quietly. The next morning, Emma appeared with 2 large bags of beautiful maternity clothes. Maya recognized the brand's expensive pieces that would have cost her a month's salary in her current situation. "Jessica always bought quality," Emma explained. "She said if you're going to be uncomfortable, at least look good while you're doing it." As Maya tried on the clothes later that evening, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. For the first time in months, she looked like her old self, a professional, put together, worthy of respect. The transformation was so complete that she almost didn't recognize the woman staring back at her. The next few weeks passed in a blur of routine. Maya's skills improved and she found herself genuinely enjoying the work. The horses responded to her calm presence, and she began to understand their individual personalities. Thunder, the large black stallion, was actually gentle despite his intimidating size. Daisy, the spotted mare, was playful and mischievous. And Rosie, the oldest horse in the stable, seemed to sense Maya's condition and would often rest her head against Maya's belly as if listening for the baby. Bradley noticed her natural affinity with the animals. "You've got a gift," he told her one morning as she successfully calmed a spooked gelding. "Most people take months to develop that kind of connection." "I've always loved animals," Maya replied, running her hand along the horse's neck. "I used to ride when I was younger." "I used to." Maya hesitated. "Life got complicated." Bradley nodded, understanding that some stories weren't ready to be told. "Well, if you ever want to ride again, Rosie there would be perfect for you. She's gentle as a lamb and loves attention." The offer touched Maya deeply. It had been years since anyone had shown her such uncomplicated kindness. "Maybe someday," she said softly. As her pregnancy progressed, the physical demands of the job became more challenging. Maya found herself moving more slowly, taking more breaks, and struggling with tasks that had become routine. She was determined not to let Bradley down, but her body was sending clear signals that she needed to take things easier. One particularly hot afternoon, as Maya bent to clean a water trough, a wave of dizziness washed over her. She grabbed the edge of the trough to steady herself, but her vision blurred and she felt herself falling. She came to consciousness lying on a pile of hay, with Emma holding a cool cloth to her forehead and Bradley packing anxiously nearby. "We're calling a doctor," Bradley said firmly, "and don't even think about arguing." "I'm fine," Maya protested weakly, trying to sit up. "Just got a little light-headed." "You're not fine," Emma said gently but firmly. "You're working too hard in your condition. When's the last time you had a proper meal, a full night's sleep?" Maya couldn't answer because she honestly couldn't remember. She'd been so focused on proving herself, on earning her keep, that she'd neglected her own basic needs. The doctor, a family friend named Dr. Patterson, arrived within the hour. After examining Maya, he pulled Bradley and Emma aside for a private conversation. Maya could see their concerned expressions and felt a familiar knot of fear in her stomach. "Young lady," Dr. Patterson said, returning to Maya's side, "you're dehydrated and exhausted. Your blood pressure is elevated, and you're showing signs of stress that could be dangerous for both you and your baby." "I need to work," Maya said desperately. "I can't afford not to work." "And you can't afford to lose this baby," Dr. Patterson replied bluntly. "You need rest, proper nutrition, and a lot less physical stress." After the doctor left, Bradley and Emma sat with Maya in the small apartment above the feed store. The space was cramped but cozy, with a small kitchenette, a bed, and a single chair by the window. "We need to talk about some changes," Bradley said carefully. "Dr. Patterson is right, you can't keep working like this." Maya's heart sank. "Are you firing me?" "No," Emma said quickly. "But we are going to modify your duties. Light work only, feeding the horses, grooming, maybe some office tasks. And you're going to start eating regular meals with us." "I can't accept charity," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not charity," Bradley replied. "It's taking care of someone who's become family." The word family hit Maya like a physical blow. She hadn't been part of a family in so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to have people care about her well-being. "Why?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why are you being so kind to me? You don't even know me." Bradley and Emma exchanged a look that spoke of years of shared understanding. "Everyone deserves kindness," Emma said simply, "especially when they're doing their best in difficult circumstances." Over the following days, Maya's new routine was much gentler. She helped with feeding times, spent hours grooming the horses, and occasionally assisted Emma with administrative tasks in the office. The change allowed her to rest more, eat regularly, and actually enjoy her interactions with the animals. It was during one of these quiet grooming sessions that Bradley made a discovery that would change everything. Maya was brushing Rosie's coat while humming softly, completely absorbed in the task. The old mare seemed to recognize the melody and whinnied appreciatively. "That's a beautiful song," Bradley commented, approaching with a feed bucket. "I haven't heard it in years." "Oh," Maya said, startled. "I didn't realize I was humming. It's just something my grandmother used to sing." "Your grandmother must have had excellent taste. That's a very old piece, classical composer, if I'm not mistaken." Maya nodded. She was a music teacher, taught piano for 40 years before she retired. "What was her name?" "Eleanor Martinez. She taught at the conservatory downtown." Bradley stopped so suddenly that the feed bucket slipped from his hands, scattering grain across the stable floor. His face had gone completely pale. "Eleanor Martinez," he repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya looked at him with concern. "Yes, do you know her? She passed away about 5 years ago." Bradley sat down heavily on a nearby hay bale, his hands shaking. "Eleanor Martinez taught my daughter Jessica piano for 10 years. She changed Jessica's life, gave her a full scholarship, helped her get into Juilliard. We could never have afforded it otherwise." The revelation hung in the air between them like a living thing. Maya felt the world shift slightly on its axis as the implications sank in. "Jessica Thompson," Maya said slowly. She was my grandmother's star pupil. Grandmother talked about her all the time. She was so proud when Jessica got that recording contract. Maya Rodriguez, Bradley said, pieces clicking into place. Your grandmother mentioned you. You were the one who was going to business school, the one who was going to conquer the corporate world. They stared at each other in stunned silence, the weight of coincidence, or perhaps fate, settling around them. She never stopped believing in you, Bradley said finally. Even when you stopped visiting, she would tell us about your successes. She was so proud of your achievements. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. I stopped visiting because I was ashamed. I was so busy building my career that I didn't have time for her. And then when everything fell apart, I was too proud to let her know I'd failed. You haven't failed, Bradley said gently. You're here, you're fighting, you're about to bring new life into the world. Alina would be proud of the woman you've become. The conversation opened floodgates that Maya had kept sealed for months. That evening, sitting in Emma's kitchen with a cup of tea, she finally told the story she'd been carrying alone. I was engaged to Marcus Sullivan, she began, her voice steady despite the pain. We worked for the same company. He was in finance, I was in marketing. We were the golden couple, everyone said. Beautiful apartment, successful careers, wedding planned at the country club. Emma listened without interruption, her face showing the kind of compassion that comes from having lived through her own share of heartbreak. I found out I was pregnant about 8 months ago, Maya continued. We hadn't planned it, but I was excited. I thought Marcus would be too. Instead, he told me it would ruin our careers, that we weren't ready for children. And you disagreed. I wanted this baby. I've always wanted children, but I'd been so focused on my career that I kept putting it off. This felt like a gift, like fate telling me it was time. Maya took a shaky breath before continuing. Marcus gave me an ultimatum: end the pregnancy or end the relationship. When I chose to keep the baby, he didn't just leave me. He went to our boss, told him I was emotionally unstable and making poor decisions. He convinced them to fire me. Emma's expression darkened. He destroyed your career because you wouldn't do what he wanted. It gets worse. He also convinced our mutual friends that I was having some kind of breakdown, cut me off from everyone we knew, and since we lived in his apartment, I suddenly had no home, no job, no support system, and no money. What about your family? Maya's voice grew even quieter. My parents died in a car accident when I was 12. My grandmother raised me, but she's been gone for 5 years. I have a few distant relatives, but we were never close. Marcus knew I was alone in the world. It's part of what made his betrayal so devastating. Emma reached across the table and squeezed Maya's hand. I'm so sorry. No one should have to go through that alone. I tried to find another job, but somehow word had gotten out in my industry. Every interview ended with polite rejection. I burned through my savings in 3 months, lost my apartment, and ended up living in my car until I could barely afford gas. How did you end up here? I was driving through town with my last $20, looking for somewhere to sleep safely, when I saw your job posting at the gas station. It felt like a lifeline. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing the story. Maya, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Maya tensed, expecting judgment or rejection. Do you have any intention of trying to reconcile with this Marcus person? The question surprised Maya. God, no, why would you ask that? Because I needed to know if you were here to heal or if you were just hiding. There's a difference. Maya considered this. I think, I think I came here to survive, but maybe I'm starting to heal too. That night, Maya lay in bed thinking about the strange turns her life had taken. 6 months ago, if someone had told her she'd be living above a horse stable, pregnant and alone, she would have laughed at the impossibility. Yet here she was, and for the first time in months, she felt something that might have been hope. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Maya was feeding the horses when she heard a car pulling into the drive. Through the barn door, she saw a sleek black sedan that looked out of place among the pickup trucks and horse trailers. A woman emerged from the car, tall, elegant, with perfectly styled blonde hair and designer clothes that probably cost more than Maya's monthly wages. She looked around the stable with barely concealed distaste. "Excuse me," the woman called out imperiously. "I'm looking for the owner of this establishment." Maya wiped her hands on her jeans and approached cautiously. "Mr. Thompson is in the office. Can I help you with something?" The woman's gaze swept over Maya dismissively, taking in her work clothes and pregnant form. "I doubt it. I need to speak with someone in charge." Before Maya could respond, Bradley emerged from the office, his expression wary. "Can I help you, ma'am?" "I'm Veronica Hartwell," the woman announced as if the name should mean something. "I represent the Hartwell Foundation. We're interested in acquiring your property." Bradley's expression hardened. "Not interested. This is a family business and it's staying that way." "I think you should hear our offer before you dismiss it," Veronica said, pulling out a folder. "We're prepared to pay significantly above market value." "Lady, I don't care if you're prepared to pay $1 million. This place isn't for sale." Veronica's smile became predatory. "Mr. Thompson, I've done my research. Your property taxes have increased substantially in the past 2 years. Your insurance premiums are rising, and I understand you've had some expensive veterinary bills lately." Maya watched Bradley's face carefully. She could see the mention of money troubles hit home. "How do you know about my personal finances?" Bradley asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "It's a small town, Mr. Thompson. People talk. The point is, we're offering you a way out of your financial difficulties while ensuring you can retire comfortably." "And what exactly does the Hartwell Foundation plan to do with my property?" "We're developing a luxury resort and spa. This location is perfect, rural enough to feel exclusive, but close enough to the city to attract affluent clients. Your little horse farm would be transformed into something that actually contributes to the local economy." Maya felt sick. She'd seen this before in her corporate days. Developers swooping in to destroy family businesses in the name of progress and profit. "Our horses contribute plenty to the local economy," Bradley said coldly. "We employ 6 people full-time, buy our feed and supplies locally, and host events that bring visitors to town." "6 people," Veronica laughed dismissively. "Our resort will employ over 200 people. This is about thinking bigger, Mr. Thompson, about progress." "Progress." Bradley repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "Let me tell you about progress, Ms. Hartwell. My grandfather started this stable in 1952 with 2 horses and a dream. My father expanded it, I've improved it, and someday I hope to pass it on to my daughters. That's progress, building something lasting, something that matters." Veronica's facade cracked slightly. "Mr. Thompson, I'm trying to be reasonable here, but the Hartwell Foundation has significant resources and influence. If we can't come to an agreement voluntarily, there are other ways to achieve our goals." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality. Zoning laws change. Tax assessments get reviewed. Health departments conduct inspections. Sometimes family businesses discover they can't afford to keep operating." Maya stepped forward, her marketing instincts overriding her caution. "Ms. Hartwell, are you suggesting that the Hartwell Foundation would use its influence to force a family out of business?" Veronica turned to Maya with barely concealed annoyance. "And you are someone who recognizes corporate bullying when she sees it." "Corporate bullying." Veronica's voice rose. "This is business, sweetie. Maybe you should stick to shoveling manure and leave the grown-up conversations to actual adults." The dismissive tone and condescending words triggered something in Maya. For months, she'd been accepting whatever treatment people chose to give her, grateful for any scrap of kindness, tolerating any slight. But this woman's arrogance reminded her of everything she'd lost and everything she'd once been. "Actually," Maya said, her voice taking on the authoritative tone she'd once used in boardrooms, "I think you should know that what you're describing could constitute actionable harassment. The use of municipal influence to force property sales can be construed as a form of extortion, particularly when accompanied by explicit threats. Veronica stared at Maya as if seeing her for the first time. Who exactly are you? Someone who knows that development projects like yours require extensive environmental impact studies, particularly when they involve wetlands and wildlife habitats. Someone who understands that luxury resorts need specific zoning classifications that can take years to approve. Someone who's aware that the financial backers of such projects don't appreciate negative publicity about their land acquisition methods. Bradley watched this exchange with growing amazement. This was a different Maya than the desperate woman who'd arrived at his stable weeks ago. "You're bluffing," Veronica said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Am I? Tell me, Ms. Hartwell, does the Foundation's board of directors know you're making threats to force families off their land? Do your investors know you're using intimidation tactics? Because that's the kind of story that tends to interest investigative journalists." Veronica's composure finally cracked completely. "You don't know who you're messing with." "Actually, I do. I know exactly who you are, and I know exactly what you're doing. The question is whether you know who you're messing with." For a moment, the two women stared at each other in a battle of wills. Then Veronica gathered her materials and stalked toward her car. "This isn't over," she called back. "No," Maya agreed, "it's not." After Veronica's car disappeared down the drive, Bradley turned to Maya with a mixture of admiration and confusion. "What just happened here?" Maya sank onto a hay bale, suddenly exhausted. "I think I just declared war on a development company." "How did you know all that stuff about environmental studies and zoning?" "In my previous life, I handled marketing for corporate acquisitions. I've seen this playbook before. The Hartwell Foundation isn't just interested in your property, they're planning something much bigger. Your stable is probably just one piece of a larger development plan." Bradley sat beside her. "Can they really do what they threatened? Use their influence to force us out?" "They can try, but they made a mistake today." "What mistake?" Maya smiled grimly. "They assumed I was just a pregnant woman with no resources or connections. They showed their hand to someone who knows how to fight back." Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into researching the Hartwell Foundation with the same intensity she'd once applied to corporate campaigns. Using the stable's computer during her breaks, she discovered that the Foundation was indeed planning a massive development project, a luxury resort and conference center that would encompass over 500 acres of rural land. The Thompson property was strategically located in the center of the proposed development. Without it, the project would be significantly less valuable. But with it, the Foundation stood to make tens of millions of dollars. Maya also discovered that the Foundation had a history of using questionable tactics to acquire land. There were complaints filed with the state attorney general's office, allegations of bribery and intimidation, and several lawsuits that had been settled out of court. They're not just developers, Maya explained to Bradley and Emma over dinner. They're land speculators. They buy up rural properties, get them rezoned for commercial use, then sell them to actual resort companies for massive profits. So they don't even plan to build anything themselves? Emma asked. Probably not. They're middlemen who make their money by manipulating local politics and pressuring family businesses to sell. Bradley pushed his food around his plate. Maya, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but maybe it's not worth the fight. We are struggling financially. The horses are getting older, the property needs expensive repairs, and Emma and I aren't getting any younger. Bradley Thompson, don't you dare give up, Emma said firmly. This place is our life's work. But what if they're right? What if we're just being stubborn about progress? Maya leaned forward. Bradley, can I tell you something? In my old job, I helped destroy 3 family businesses. I wrote the marketing materials that convinced communities these developments were good for them. I crafted the narratives that made families feel selfish for wanting to keep their land. She paused, gathering her thoughts. Every single time the promises were lies. The jobs were temporary construction work or minimum wage service positions. The economic benefits went to corporate headquarters hundreds of miles away, and the communities lost something irreplaceable: their character, their history, their identity. But the money they're offering will be gone in a few years. But what you've built here, the relationships with your horses, the trust of your community, the legacy you're leaving for your daughters, that's priceless. That night, Maya sat in her small apartment, staring at her laptop screen. She'd been researching for hours, following paper trails and connecting dots. The Hartwell Foundation was more extensive than she'd initially realized, with tentacles reaching into local government, media, and business communities. But she'd also found something else: a pattern of vulnerabilities. Every successful development project the foundation had completed had relied on secrecy and intimidation. When their methods were exposed to public scrutiny, they tended to retreat to easier targets. Maya began crafting a plan. She would use every skill she'd learned in her corporate career, every connection she'd maintained, every weapon in her marketing arsenal. The Hartwell Foundation had made a critical error in judgment. They'd assumed she was powerless. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. The next morning, Maya asked Bradley for permission to use his office for a few hours. She had phone calls to make, emails to send, and a campaign to launch. Her first call was to Jessica Thompson, Bradley's daughter and Maya's grandmother's former student. The conversation was emotional, Jessica remembered both Maya and Eleanor fondly, and she was outraged to learn about the Foundation's threats. Maya, I have connections in the music industry, but also in media, Jessica said. There's a journalist at the Times who specializes in corporate corruption. She's been looking for a story about rural land grabs. That would be incredibly helpful. But Jessica, I need you to understand if we do this, there's no going back. The Foundation will fight dirty. Good, so will we. Maya's second call was to Dr. Patterson, not for medical advice but for community connections. As the town's doctor for over 30 years, he knew everyone and had significant influence. The Hartwell Foundation, Dr. Patterson's voice was grim. Maya, they've been quietly buying up properties all over the county. The Martinez farm, the old Johnson place, even the land where the elementary school used to be. Nobody realized it was all connected. Would you be willing to speak publicly about their tactics? Absolutely. And I can put you in touch with other property owners who have been pressured. Her third call was the hardest to her former assistant, Caroline, who still worked at Maya's old company. The conversation was awkward at first, but Caroline had always been loyal, and she was horrified to learn what Marcus had done. Maya, I'm so sorry. I didn't know the full story. Marcus told everyone you'd had some kind of breakdown. Caroline, I need a favor. I need you to use your corporate research access to pull everything you can find on the Hartwell Foundation. Financial records, executive backgrounds, legal issues, everything. I could get fired for that. I know, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. There was a long pause. Send me your email address. You'll have what you need by tomorrow. By the end of the week, Maya had assembled a comprehensive dossier on the Hartwell Foundation. The picture that emerged was of a company that operated on the edge of legality, using intimidation and political influence to acquire land for development projects that rarely delivered on their promises. But Maya had also uncovered something else, a connection that made her blood run cold. The Hartwell Foundation's legal counsel was the same firm that employed Marcus Sullivan. Her ex-fiancé wasn't just a financial advisor. He was part of the team that specialized in corporate acquisitions and land development. The betrayal cut deeper than she'd expected. Marcus hadn't just destroyed her career out of spite. He'd done it because she represented a potential threat to his professional interests. Her knowledge of corporate tactics, her connections in the business world, her ability to fight back, all of it made her dangerous to companies like the Hartwell Foundation. Maya realized that her arrival at Willow Creek Stables hadn't been simple coincidence. The foundation had been planning this acquisition for months, maybe years. They'd known that Bradley's financial struggles would eventually force him to sell, and they'd been patient. But they hadn't counted on Maya's presence, and they certainly hadn't expected her to fight back. The next phase of Maya's plan required delicate timing. She reached out to the journalist Jessica had recommended, providing carefully documented evidence of the Foundation's tactics. She organized a meeting of affected property owners, creating a coalition of families who'd been targeted by the Foundation's acquisition strategy. Most importantly, she began working with the local environmental group to document the ecological impact of the proposed development. The area around Willow Creek Stables was home to several endangered species, and any major development would require extensive environmental review. Bradley watched Maya's transformation with amazement. The exhausted, desperate woman who'd arrived at his stable had somehow become a formidable opponent to one of the region's most powerful development companies. "I still don't understand how you know all this stuff," he said one evening as Maya showed him her research. "I spent 10 years in corporate marketing, Bradley. I know how these companies think, how they operate, what they're afraid of. The Hartwell Foundation isn't unique. They're just one of dozens of companies that make their money by destroying communities. But you seem to know their specific tactics." Maya hesitated. She hadn't told Bradley about Marcus's connection to the Foundation, unsure how he'd react to the personal element of her campaign. "Let's just say I've encountered similar companies before." The first major victory came when the environmental impact study revealed that the proposed development would destroy a critical wetland habitat. The state environmental agency placed a temporary hold on any development permits, giving Maya and her coalition time to organize further resistance. The second victory came when the journalist's story was published, exposing the Foundation's pattern of intimidation and questionable land acquisitions. The article included interviews with several property owners who'd been pressured to sell, creating a public relations disaster for the Foundation. But Maya knew these were just opening moves in a longer game. The Foundation had significant resources and wouldn't give up easily. They would regroup, refine their tactics, and come back stronger. She was right. 2 weeks after the article's publication, Maya received an unexpected visitor. She was grooming Rosie when a familiar figure appeared in the stable doorway. Marcus Sullivan looked exactly as she remembered, tall, handsome, impeccably dressed, with the kind of confident bearing that had once attracted her. But now she could see the calculation behind his charm, the coldness in his eyes that she'd somehow missed before. "Hello, Maya," he said casually, as if they'd parted on good terms. "You're looking well." Maya's hand tightened on the brush, but she kept her voice steady. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" "I think you know. This little crusade of yours has caused some problems for my clients." Your clients, the Hartwell Foundation. I'm part of their legal team now. We handle their acquisitions. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. So you knew. When you destroyed my career, you knew I might eventually become a threat to your business. Marcus smiled, the expression devoid of warmth. I knew you were smart, resourceful, and stubborn, all qualities that could be problematic if you ever found yourself on the wrong side of a corporate acquisition. The wrong side. Maya, you're fighting a battle you can't win. The foundation has more money, more influence, and more patience than you can imagine. This little stable, these people who have taken you in, they're all going to get hurt if you keep pushing. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. You're pregnant, homeless, and working for minimum wage. You have no resources, no connections, and no leverage. What exactly do you think you're going to accomplish here? Maya set down the brush and turned to face him fully. I'm going to stop you. Marcus laughed. With what? Your intimate knowledge of horse manure. With the same skills that made you afraid of me in the first place. You didn't destroy my career because I was having a breakdown, Marcus. You destroyed it because you knew I was capable of exactly what I'm doing now. What you're doing now is playing with people's lives. The Thompsons are going to lose their property whether you fight or not. The only question is whether they lose it with compensation or without it. We'll see about that. Marcus's expression hardened. Maya, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away from this. Pack up your things, leave town, and never come back. If you do that, I'll make sure the Thompsons get a fair offer for their property. And if I don't, then you'll discover just how powerless you really are. After Marcus left, Maya sat in the stable for a long time, her mind racing. His appearance had confirmed her worst fears. This wasn't just about the Hartwell Foundation acquiring land. It was personal. Marcus saw her as a threat that needed to be eliminated. But his visit had also revealed something important. He was scared. If the Foundation's position was as strong as he claimed, he wouldn't have come to intimidate her personally. They were worried about her campaign, which meant it was working. That evening, Maya called an emergency meeting of her coalition. The group had grown to include 12 families, 2 environmental groups, and several local businesses that depended on rural tourism. We need to escalate,